I'd like to introduce Scott Stutman from Forest City Radnor, who'll give you a little background on the construction aspects from the developer side.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the mayor and other members of the City of Yonkers for inviting us here today to speak about our project, for allowing Forest City to serve as one of the backdrop projects for Business Week. It's rare that I get an opportunity to really speak about the project in great detail. I try to do that at home, but my wife's eyes seem to glaze over. And she's an accomplished triathlete, and if it's not about a marathon or a triathlon, she seems not to be interested, but little does she know that there's a lot in common between what I do and what she does. Because this project really has been a marathon. Starting in 2003, a tremendous group of professionals on the city side, on Forest City side, have come together to really bring this project to fruition. And I'm very privileged to be one of the people on the Forest City side to speak about this. I am but one of a group of very talented men and women that come together on the owner side to make this project happen. As you can imagine, there's a host of integration between lenders and marketing, construction professionals, and of course, Mr. Ratner's vision itself is what has allowed this project to be so successful. And as always, I'd like to thank Bruce for bestowing upon me the challenge. Again, one of the marquee projects for the company, and I'm happy to be here now as we are unveiling it to you, the public. And not to be remiss in that regard that on May 6th, the theater will be open to show hopefully some of the blockbusters that are coming our way this summer. And as was mentioned before, a variety of other retailers will continue to open as we move our way into the autumn of this year. Ridgehill.com is also a website that we host and has been reconstructed and will be unveiled on May 6th as well, so I invite you to visit that to get more information than maybe you get here now, and to satisfy your curiosity. We hope you come visit. Ridgehill does represent an exciting mix of land uses. As mentioned before, we have an office component to the project, residential, and of course large retail. There's almost 2.3 million square feet of parking structure that supports the occupancies here. Also, there's a mix of public spaces where a variety of exciting public art and events will be held. Possibly a skating rink will be in the future as well. So we are bringing a lot of other excitement for the public and for the experience, aside from the great retailers that are going to be populating the site. It is a open air lifestyle experience. This is kind of a development in the retail mall concept over time. A lot of folks have seen that there is a benefit to this open lifestyle center. They do populate the country. Forest City has been a big proponent of it and has developed similar sites in California and Florida, and they've all been very successful, as we expect Ridgehill to be another one of these in our portfolio. I guess the project itself has been a reflection of three major challenges. One is the marketplace, which we all are quite familiar with, either personally or professionally. The topography also has been spoken to, and that also proposed a very large challenge to the project on how to make this a retail-friendly, pedestrian-friendly environment while maintaining an allegiance to its rocky origins. And then the logistics has also been spoken. The tremendous amount of work and resources, equipment and manpower that have had to come to the site and have also needed to be orchestrated in a way that was respectful of the environment and also supplied the needs of the project. All of those three major challenges is what I'm going to be speaking to today. The leasing market and economic climate, well, certainly we all, as I said, understand that there's been a huge change in the economy These projects that get started in one economy at times get delivered in another. We've been very fortunate over many years to always deliver our projects into a stronger economy than we started. So this was a particular challenge. It resulted in the project being extended by a year. We had a lot of conversations with our lenders to extend the loans. We needed to allow the retail market to catch up with this project because the economy was basically forcing large national retailers to retrench, rethink what they wanted to do, and that certainly affected their willingness to make commitments to any expansion of their business. And so as they sorted out their difficulties, we had to wait. So we put that time to good use as we further planned and also found ways to streamline our business and to streamline our costs as we waited for the market to catch up. The unique site conditions and terrain has always been spoken to before. A tremendous amount of earthwork had been moved. A lot of rock had to be processed. Basically, we had to make it so it was retail and pedestrian friendly. You cannot have stairs in the middle of the site. It doesn't really work well. You can't have a lot of differing elevations of floors for retailers because they look for a large open flat slab area. And we also had the original office building, which we kept and renovated, and it in itself established an elevation or a height that we had to respect for its for its ground floor. So when you come off the new streets and the new sidewalks, you're obviously coming in to an existing building, and we had to coordinate that as well. But right now, just more on the unique site conditions. The balancing of the great retail design with the site topography, I spoke about that. The elevation change of 200 feet from the base to the top had to deal with this issue as well in developing these additional access points that were spoken to earlier in order to provide these new roadways and so forth, to gain even access to build these roadways. The logistics associated with that was absolutely tremendous, required a lot of engineering talent, a lot of pre-planning, and it was certainly a challenge to the construction team. I spoke about the existing 156,000 square foot office building, again, trying to be respectful of the fact that we made a decision to keep the office building, to integrate it not only into the architecture but into the design of the project was a challenge. The water tower was certainly a visual landmark, I guess, of the site. People always saw that. Folks always wondered what happened to it. It was a very difficult engineering challenge to remove it from the site because of the fact that it is a mainstay of the water supply. The office building, one of the other things I failed to mention that it was a benefit to the construction process is that it served as a command center for the enormous amount of construction engineers and planners and architects and contractors, and it gave us a focal point and a place to organize all of those resources without littering the site with a tremendous amount of construction trailers that, no matter where they were placed, would have been in the way at some point. So this was also a great benefit to having the office building, and to maintain it as that command center. We had to maintain the utilities, water, electric, fire protection, and so forth. So that was something that related to the water tower, because until we had a appropriate water supply, the tower couldn't be removed. And then removing it itself is an engineering feat. It's not often that one has to dismantle one of these, and it's certainly more involved than just emptying it and pushing it over. Or is it? Con Edison is to the south of the project. That substation provides about a third, don't quote me, but of the power that serves New York City. They were very interested in what we were doing at the site, adjacent to not only their substation, but their high tension power lines that feed the substation, and then also downstream of that feed the city. They're very sensitive to vibrations, and we had a lot of blasting to do, so they were very concerned about all that dynamite and what we were doing with it. And I can't speak enough on the logistical challenge, the planning, the forecasting, the geotech engineers that were all brought to bear in order to provide a plan for the blasting sequence that was in and around the substation in order to make sure that the protective devices within the substation that detect earthquake were not triggered and that we wouldn't have an inadvertent shutdown. And then, of course, there was a lot of testing that was done with test blasts to make sure that what we figured out in theory on paper was actually manifesting itself in reality. And then, of course, as we went ahead and implemented it, there was an army of monitors that were constantly checking what was going on for every blast. So that was certainly another challenge. And then, as was pointed out before, the limited single point of access. The construction operation for 3.5 years had to live with the fact that there wasn't a bridge and there wasn't more than one point of access. There was no western alignment connection to Tuckahoe Road. And so to bring all those men, material, equipment, heavy equipment, cranes, and so forth into the site was also a large logistical planning effort that had to be done correctly in order to maintain a good flow and good progress for the construction. This is a general topographical look at the differences in elevations of the site. Elevation 120 down by the thruway, 280 down by Tuckahoe Road, and at the peak elevation 330. And to balance all that is what generated the 1.0 million cubic yards of material that had to be moved in and around the site. As far as the complexity of the project and the construction management that I mentioned earlier that I would come back to, this gives you just a brief understanding of the multiple agencies that were involved. The City of Yonkers, the New York State Department of Transportation, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the New York State Thruway Authority, Con Edison, Verizon, Cable, Vision, Westchester County Department of Health, and Department of Transportation. All of these agencies have standards and process that had to be respected, and the project had to go through those review processes, and as well, those agencies also provided oversight to ensure that what was planned and approved is what was actually implemented. And then as the field conditions arise, all those types of approvals and so forth at times need to be revisited in order to have them be respectful of the realities of what was coming out of the construction process. And it was that communication and that tight-knit allegiance to those professionals on the public side with the team of professionals that Forest City hired on the private side is what kept that communication loop open and allowed for expedient resolution to issues that arose as a result of field conditions and the realities of implementation. The organizational complexity, I spoke a little bit about that. Of course, we have a lot of resources at the site from the contracting side, the design professional side, public agency side, tremendous amount of quality control that had to be maintained. Those records are generated in order to ensure that concrete, steel, fireproofing, materials that are used to cover up all the miles of infrastructure that go below the road are all of the highest quality and are in conformance with the design, the specifications, the public agency code requirements. And in order to ensure that that's happening, there's an army of quality control inspectors that were also on the site, and again, their logistics had to be coordinated along with the progress of construction. That was done through lots of meetings and a tremendous amount of effort and time put forth by a host of professionals. Last but not least is the tenant criteria in construction. Certainly in this challenging marketplace, as we were looking to entice tenants to come to Ridgehill, it was not that they didn't come with their own needs, and at times I always say that the retail product is premised on the fact that concrete and steel are elastic, and they're not. But that doesn't change the fact that they come with their needs, and Forest City is a lease-driven company. We will do almost anything to sign a lease, and to that extent, a lot of changes have been made in order to satisfy the tenants and their desires. So that certainly provided